Now, this other thing about looking into the camera. When somebody is looking off to one side, you, looking at the photo, are an observer, a voyeur even. You are watching them and they are unaware that you are watching them. The moment somebody turns around and looks at the camera, now they are looking at you and you are aware that they are looking at you. And that changes the relationship with the person. You don't look at somebody the same way when you know they can see how you're looking at them. Now, another aspect of this is, the other thing is that when somebody's looking at you, then there is the eye contact, there is a connection. Well, it's all part of the same thing, part of the same reason why you don't look at somebody in the same way. But there's a connection, and actually trying to get that connection. Let me show you. Earlier today, I took a couple of selfies of me, just standard window light, right? So here we go. This is me, window to my left, to your right as you look at it. And I'm looking out the window. And at that point, you can be the observer. You can look at me, you can form your opinions in the safe knowledge that I've got no idea that you're doing it. You can be laughing at me, you can be looking wistful at me, you can be fancying me, you maybe only my wife. But the point is you can form whatever opinion, positive or negative, and I have no idea what that is. But what if I turn around and look at you? Now I can read your expression because I'm looking at you. So now, if your thoughts weren't entirely wholesome and pleasant, I might notice. So you have to change your expression. You react to this photo, you react to a face looking at you in a different way. And that's a really important thing to remember. However, it doesn't necessarily all have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to, in this case, I've got a slightly warm smile on my face, or at least that's what I'm trying. And this is a connected photo. When you look at this photo, I am looking at you. There is a connection between us, or at least there feels like there is to the viewer, and that can be a much more interesting photo. Now, as a photographer, it's much harder to capture this kind of photo because you point the camera at somebody, and rather than giving you a relaxed, warm, connected, they give you because they don't really want to be photographed. And they were absolutely fine with you until the camera came up. They were connecting with you brilliantly until the camera was pointing at them. And this then is the problem. This is what you're up against. When you try to photograph somebody else, the hardest thing to do is to get a good photo of somebody looking at you. Now, if you're in the kind of amateur realms, you're in the uncertain realms, take the photo of them looking elsewhere. It's easier on them, it's easier on you. If you want the challenge, then you have to figure out how to get them to look at you and still look relaxed. And that's what I do. That's my challenge. That's my obsession. That's why I do portraits. Yeah, I can do portraits of people looking off to one side. Easy peasy. Photos of people looking at you but still relaxed? That's really difficult. Which is partly why I do it. It's my obsession. In the same way that Greg takes these amazing landscape photos, his obsession will have him being up before sunrise, driving off to some remote place, sitting on top of it, climbing to the top of a tor, sitting on a rock in cold weather, watching the sky lighten up. And I just think, oh God, no, I'd rather be in my bed. I love his photos, but I could never take photos like that because I don't have that obsession over landscapes. I have obsession over faces. So this is really what it's about, Cliff. That notion of, is it better to have the candid photo or is it better to have the pose or the looking into? And that kind of comes down to what you're obsessed about, what your skills are, and your relationship with the person that you're photographing, and their relationship with the camera, and your relationship with them and the camera, and how much you can relax them in front of the camera. Because your job then is not just taking the photo. Your job is not necessarily, you you can understand everything you want about aperture, shutter speed, ISO, compositional techniques. But if you can't relax that person the other side of you, you don't have a photo. So a lot of my portrait photography, I'm not so much a photographer as a psychotherapist, as a counsellor, helping people to relax and feel better about themselves in front of the camera. And it's a skill I've had to develop over years. And some people never manage it because that's just not really their thing. So portrait photographers, we tend to be a rare bunch. Most photographers quite like hiding behind the camera. I would guess quite strongly that a large amount of the photographers watching the large amount, I'm talking to you. You use the camera so that nobody else can use it. Is that right? I'm sure it is for a lot of you. The reason, well, not the reason, one of the reasons, a side benefit at least, of you holding the camera means nobody else is holding it, which means they can't point it at you, right? Most photographers aren't really taking photos of people, because then, as well as trying to work out all your composition and your light and everything else, you've then also got to deal with the emotions of the person that you're trying to take the photo of as well. And specifically, or particularly, if it happens to be your wife or partner, there's a whole minefield there for getting it wrong. So most people run away from doing that. So kudos to you for getting a photo of your wife. Even more kudos for getting a photo of your wife that she likes as well as you like. So that's in the bag. You've got the smug points, okay? But if you're talking about what you need to do to go pro from that, then you need to take it from the other side so that you've not got the inverted triangle. You need to be able to see the eyes. And the eye that's closest to the camera is always the most important one. That one's got to be in focus. That's the one in your picture which is hidden by the fringe, or the hair rather. And ideally, there's a whole skill set to be learned about relaxing people in front of the camera. But hopefully, then that gives you. But don't let that take away from the fact that you managed to take a photo of your wife which you both like, which is bloody astonishing and very rare. So anyway, I hope that gives you some pointers, some thoughts, along with that idea of how to, if you're going to taking some of the red out of the skin, but without desaturating the whole photo. Cool. Right. What a packed night we had this evening. If you found this useful, let your friends know and hit subscribe.